Welcome to the Recruitment Mentors podcast. My name is Hisham Azuz. Today, I'm very excited to be joined by Donovan Pignatiello, who is one of the founders of a global specialist SAP recruitment agency called Nicholas Bernard. Donovan formed this agency 10 years ago by himself, but from 2013, he has been growing this business with his business partner, Richard Onyejua. For the last 7 years. They currently have 13 employees in the business, and last year turned over just under 8 million. Donovan, thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me on this podcast, Hisham. I've been listening to it for the last year and a half, really. And thank you very much. You've added a lot of value to this recruitment space.
I appreciate it, Donovan. And safe to say, we just practiced 3 or 4 times the names before we did that. But where I want to start, Donovan, the first question is, in your opinion, what characteristics and traits do you think make up a highly successful recruitment consultant?
Well, characteristics. First and foremost, you need to be hungry. You know, everyone says that they want it, but when it comes down to the actions, you really see how hungry they are. So it's got to be number one for me is hunger, determination, and there needs to be a reason why that person wants to achieve it.
Do you think that hunger can be taught?
Definitely not.
Really?
Definitely not. No. Hunger is a character trait. It's either you're born with hunger or your circumstances in life is going to give you a reason to have hunger, but you can't teach someone to have hunger. You can teach someone skills, a process, an industry sector, but you can't teach hunger. It's either you've got hunger or it's either you're put into a situation where you develop hunger, but it definitely can't be taught.
Do you think, just interested on this, so I think it's safe to say a lot of younger generation get a bad reputation for not being as hungry or not wanting to work as hard or whatever. Would you agree with that?
I've seen it, yeah. I would agree with it to a certain extent, yeah.
Really? Interesting. Yeah. So, look, Donovan, so what we're going to focus on today is definitely sort of Donovan's recruitment business owner journey. And obviously that spans over 10 years. But obviously before that, from what I can see, you worked as an employed recruiter for over 5 years, right before you got to that point of starting your own business.
Yeah.
So let me just start here. What gave you the confidence to go out on your own and start a recruitment business? I think that's what a lot of people lack, that confidence or the willingness to take that jump. So what would you say, looking back, gave you the confidence to start your recruitment entrepreneur journey?
Well, to be quite honest, I always knew from when I was at university that one day I was going to have my business and my own business, and I didn't know what in, but I always knew that I would be running my own company one day. And I did international business with languages at university, and it so happened that I managed to get into international recruitment where I use languages almost every day.
What languages do you speak?
So I speak Italian, French, and Spanish.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I didn't know that. Definitely. I mean, with a name like that, I guess people would expect it.
Well,
that's awesome.
No, when they see me, they definitely don't accept it.
Okay, so you got into that, and then international recruitment, utilizing your bilingual skills.
Yeah, because I first started off doing telecoms recruitment for the South American market. I worked at a company called the Blue Group, which got bought out by Mawson's International. And then this was in 2004. And then I went in doing SAP recruitment for a company called Square One in 2006. And it was all international based. I've only ever done international recruitment contracts.
That's interesting. So you've always done contract recruitment, international markets. And have you always utilized your bilingual skills then, really?
Yeah. So when I was recruiting for telecoms in South America, it was Spanish speaking. Even I was doing the Brazilian market, and I would speak slowly to clients in Spanish, and they
Really?
would answer me slowly, very slowly in Portuguese, and we could understand each other. And yeah, I'll be closing deals like that.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah,
So
even managed to do a client visit in Brazil once.
really, that's
Yeah,
awesome. So
yeah.
where did this hunger for your own business come from then? Talk to me. What did you have parents that were entrepreneurial? Did you think that was the only way to build a life that you wanted to provide yourself and your family? Like where did that hunger come from?
Um, to be quite honest, I didn't come from any privileged backgrounds. My parents had to struggle in life, and yeah, that was always just drummed into me that you've got to work harder than everyone in life. You've got to do things to become somebody and achieve, a certain status and achieve big things in life, basically. So my mum always drummed that into me from a young age. So I
Mm.
guess I always knew that if I wanted to do things, then I would have to work. And yeah, what better way than work for your own self?
Yeah, for sure. So before you started Nicholas Bernard and went out on your own,
Yeah.
so you worked at a business for nearly 4 years before you took the leap. So I guess what sort of things happened for you to be like, right, I'm going to do this on my own? Did you have a really good year? Did you think, right, why can't I do this for myself? I'm making this company money. Was there anything in particular that gave you the confidence to start this venture?
To be quite honest, before I set up, I had some up and down years. So I had a good spell at the Blue Group, where I was doing telecoms recruitment. I got a bit fed up of just doing the different hours because I was doing South American or US hours, and at the time the US dollar was a very low when you converted it back to pounds, which meant the commissions were quite low. So I wanted to do something more European focused. I went at square one, and then I went to a company called Spring Technology, which was then bought out by Deco, and then the financial crisis hit, and I was specializing at the time placing SAP consultants into banks. So I went from hero to zero literally overnight. And yeah, I ended up, I left Spring and then went to some absolute shit shows. And I thought, yeah, I went to some, I went to a company in particular which I thought I could just do a better job with my eyes closed. So yeah, I just
Okay.
thought I'm going to do it.
So let's break down this journey then, because we were talking about this before. So at the beginning, I think you'd agree that it was a bit of a lifestyle business, right? And
Indeed,
that was
yeah.
for the first couple of years. So it was just you
Yeah,
working from home, and
working from
then
home from my
just for
bedroom.
yeah, from your bedroom. So just for context, so for first 2-3 years that was that. And then obviously 2013, as I explained in the introduction, Richard then came on as your business partner.
Yeah,
Again, as we discussed, then obviously the both of you then building up some traction for Nicholas Bernard and making sure that this is a business that you can grow. And then for the last sort of 3 to 4 years, you then focused on growth and hiring
indeed.
people, etc. Yeah. So
Yeah,
let's just focus on just quickly the early days,
yeah.
right? Because obviously, as you working from home in your bedroom, and then you also had a Muay Thai. So was you doing Muay Thai professionally at that point, or?
Yeah, so I did Muay Thai back in early 2000s, and I focused on university and starting out in recruitment, and I bought my first flat in 2005, or yeah, 2005 it was. So I stopped all of that, and then I went back to it in 2010 when I'd started or set up Nicholas Bernard from home, where I had a bit more flexibility, and it was essentially a bit more of a lifestyle business. And yeah, I used to train twice a day.
Really?
Yeah, 6 days per week.
Wow.
And I ended up fighting in Thailand. I had nine amateur fights and about 6 professional fights at the O2, Indigo, at Scala in King's Cross, and at Coco's in Camden Palace. I fought under a gym called Team 2 at Gym Box.
Okay.
So it was, it was quite good because I would get the training to bank in the morning, go to Gym Box, train, go to Shoreditch where our office was, and crack on in the evenings.
How long did you do that for?
The whole fighting thing, probably about 4 years.
Okay.
Yeah, it was
so
interesting, tough times as well.
For sure. So let's just talk a bit about, I'd love to just sort of for you to share the sort of comparisons that you see in sort of being in that environment, training, fighting, and how that's translated into Donovan business. Because for me, I'm a huge fan of MMA.
Yeah,
I've only done like 5 Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu classes and I hurt my knee and haven't been back. So that's I used to do karate when I was a kid. But for me, what I absolutely love about watching MMA and have the utmost respect for you is that when you're in that, and we spoke about this before, but like when you're in that environment where you're in an amateur fight, professional fight, you're in complete survival mode. The only thing that you can be is present and like completely focus on the task at hand, right? So I'm sure you've been in deep, uncomfortable situations and all these sorts of things, but would love you to share. I haven't had many people in here from a background like that on this show. So like for you, looking at your sort of business career and your entrepreneurial journey, what similarities do you see in Donovan, Muay Thai fighter, doing that, going into those fights and being a business owner? How's it helped you?
Well, it's do or die, isn't it? So when you set up your company, you have to do deals or you die. When you're in combat, it's either you do them or you get done. So look, there's a lot of similarities between the both because they're both about strategy and having discipline. If you don't have discipline in a business, you're probably not going to lay down the foundations that allow you to grow your business. You're not going to, do the groundwork. You're not going to call your candidates, hit your KPIs, add your contacts. Just like when you're a professional fighter or a professional athlete, you've got to do your cardio, you've got to get your technique up, you've got to think with your brain and get your strategies because, just like you can't just call any client and say, okay, well, have you got any jobs? I'm Donovan from Nicholas Bernard, I can supply consultants. Have you got any jobs? You've got to come with a strategy. So you've got to find a unique selling point. You've got to find market information, speak to candidates. If you're targeting, for example, BP, speak to all the candidates at BP and understand what's going on at BP and then call the manager and say, look, I know that you're doing this, you're doing that. If you're fighting an opponent and you know that he's a boxer or a kicker or he's going to have you in the clinch, you got to play or you got to be able to stifle their strategy. So, it's they're both very similar in the way that every day is an attack, is a day that you have to fight for survival, especially in business. So the bigger companies are more equipped to, fight for that territory, for that market share, for that client. So it's a question of, fighting them off. And you've got to have that same mindset as you're going into battle. Every day you've got to believe in your capabilities, believe in your system, and apply everything that you believe in for you to be able to realize that success and that tiny step towards being closer to your goals.
I like it. Strategy, discipline, mindset.
100%. I mean, discipline to anything is the key. If you're losing weight, if you're wanting to learn an instrument, if you want to take up a new sport, it's all about discipline, isn't it?
Donovan, why do you think people fail at discipline? Because I think everyone listening would know. I think everyone knows how to lose weight. Everyone knows how they could be better or improve. But obviously you hear consistency is king and discipline. Like why do you think and like you've obviously being a fighter, that's something that you would have to be non-negotiable with your discipline. Otherwise, when you turn up to fight day, there's a good chance that you're going to get knocked out, or you could be seriously hurt. Or when you turn up to go on the scales and you do your weigh-in, if you haven't been disciplined, then you might not be able to fight and you might not be able to earn the money that you've been working up, whatever, right? So I'll just be interested to get your thoughts on that. Like, why do you think people fail at discipline?
I think people have just been wrapped around in cotton wool a bit too much. Some people aren't really prepared to go through the depths and probably put themselves in comfort situations. You grow when you're out of your comfort zone. You know, if you're starting out and you're scared of rejection, you're never going to understand how to get around the rejections. You've got to be able to just, not take it to heart. In anything you do, you have to. If it's easy, you're never going to learn.
Okay.
A client's never going to answer all your calls. It's probably going to take them. It's probably going to take you 10 times to call them, and then they answer. And then when you speak to them 5, 6 times or 8 times, then they're going to start to remember you and probably start to buy from you. So I think that people are they need to condition themselves more into, this is hard. Not anyone can do this. And you need to be resilient and carry on. And eventually it will all add up as a compound effect to, creating that picture.
Yeah, I think the interesting point on that is, like, I think a lot of people assume, like, I think the sort of gym and working out and stuff is just a good analogy. But like, if I was to look at you, Donovan, be like, wow, he works out a lot, he looks in great shape, he must find it easier than I do. Or, for example, running, a lot of people may look at people that do amazing runs and all that and go, they must really enjoy running. But I'm sure, hopefully you agree, but I can relate to running, where I used to be the person, I'd say I hated running. But it's actually but it's the people that it's not. So it's the mindset of, okay, yeah, you might hate it, but it's those that push through that and still do it, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So it's like, don't assume that people, like, you might look at someone and go, oh my God, they're so good at business development, I'm finding it really difficult, blah, 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 they must find it easy. Well, actually, no, they've pushed through that discomfort to give themselves more of an opportunity to find it more comfortable or be more competent in the uncomfortability. Do you get what I mean? I think that's the interesting point.
Yeah, and look, there's some elements of recruitment that I don't like to do, but I know that has to be done. If you have to do your groundwork. You have to speak to candidates to get leads. If you don't speak to candidates, you don't get leads. You have to map out clients. Okay, there's certain elements of it which are boring but fundamental. So I never liked running, but it was a core part of what I did. And there's a lot of elements in recruitment that you're not going to like that you have to do.
Yeah. So quickly then, how would you describe early days of Nicholas Bernard then? Just you smashing out at home. How would you describe those early years?
Well, working from home, I didn't like it because, it's very easy to be comfortable and distracted, definitely for me. And I think I remember that I lost engagement with colleagues and, just general camaraderie in the office. So when my business partner, Richard, joined in 2013 and we got an office in Shoreditch, I thought, great, I can get up and go to work again. And it was great. It was great. But, we still had ups and downs. It wasn't, okay, now we're in the office and we're smashing it, so there was ups and downs in that.
Okay. So what advice would you give then to a younger Donovan starting this business?
I found that there was a bit of an illusion at first because, I had the whole world that I could contact and there was no restrictions. But then it's like, okay, I can speak to everyone and anyone, but then where do I actually start? So you always need to just focus in one territory, focus in an area. Like you said, double down. Like I hear you say on many of your podcasts, you need to have just like be a specialist in one area, or one client, and then you could branch out. So I think at first I wasn't as focused. I was just running around the market, just trying to chase any
Just
and
trying to get
everything
deals.
within SAP. But even that is too vague.
Okay. So when Richard came in, then what would you say was the biggest impact? What was the biggest impact Richard had, or him personally, or just having another human being involved? Because obviously it was just your own, and I think a lot of people are quite worried about starting a business on a recruitment business on their own. So what would you say were sort of the best things about having someone involved in your recruitment business?
Well, for one, you don't want to let your business partner down.
Accountability,
absolutely. So you don't want to be late, because then you don't want that person to think, oh, he's taking a piss, or you don't want to have another day off or half a day. You want people to think, okay, yeah, the person that I'm in this with is great. If I'm going to war with someone, I would want to go to war with that person. So it makes you raise your standards, because you're no longer just keeping yourself, answering to yourself.
You're not just holding yourself
accountable.
Yeah,
Precisely. So it slowly added a bit more form and shape to it being a small business. And I'm a very process orientated person, so it was just another piece of the puzzle of a system that was being created that let us scale eventually to being the company we are today.
How easy did you find it having to answer to someone else, or you couldn't? Do you know what I mean? I don't know. Did you find that difficult?
No, to be quite honest, we don't answer to each other, but it's there's obviously a respect thing where you want, we always communicate, and you want everything to always be clear, crystal clear. And yeah, it always has been, to be fair. If you do something in the best possible way, then other people will see that, and it doesn't become a question of answering to someone else.
Okay, so Richard joined in 2013, and then you didn't make your first hire until when was that, roughly?
So we hired July 2017.
Okay, so yeah, solid 4 years of obviously building. So what did you guys have a plan when Richard joined? What was the plan? Tell us a bit about what the intentions were for those 2 to 4 years with Richard being involved.
So the first plan was for us to build as much as possible and just pay off large chunks of our mortgages off.
Okay.
And we were
just both absolutely smash it out.
Yeah, and then we would just both put in a percentage or a part of our billings into a pot, and then that pot finances hires. So we both got to a level that we had some solid billings, and
what was you doing?
We went for it.
Give us some context. Just YouTube. Tell us how long it took traction. What was you guys billing? Because it's all contract SAP.
Yeah, so I was billing about 240 a year, and Richard was doing the same, and then we started employing. But do you know what? Even with that, a lot of people think, okay, well, I'll just set up and just do it all myself. But it's a lot harder than that, because you can't just be a biller. You've got to be a businessman. You've got to be able to set up a system, or you can't just have one lucky year where, you've come across a client and, they're hiring loads, and then it all goes bad, because then if you start hiring people and you don't have that solid foundation of client giving you jobs or clients giving you jobs, then, you could find yourself a bit in a sticky situation. So, we was both billing 240 grand, for the year, and we had a solid base where we could just thought, okay, this is a platform that we can actually go and create something with.
Let's just talk a bit about that platform, Donovan, and let's talk about the sort of last 3 years, because I think that's interesting, right? So what you did it in a so basically what you've done there is you've de-risked the risk of hiring more people and growing the business, right? By building a platform. I'm assuming there's maybe some systems that you thought about as well. We might have some sort of key accounts, but like what when you say platform, talk to us a bit about that, because I think some people benefit from that who are thinking maybe they want to grow this business but not sure of when to hire or like where to get to. Do you get what I mean? So you mentioned a bit about billings and revenue that you're bringing into the company, but yeah, what was the sort of, I guess, what were you and Richard aiming for to get to for you guys to have confidence and be like, right, let's start trying to grow this thing now? Yeah. So I'm assuming it could be, I don't know, in terms of monies wise, you wanted saving where you gave yourself a 6-month, 12-month runway, or it might have been certain systems. Like what was you getting to for you to guys to be like, right, let's get more people involved and try and grow this business?
Well, to be quite honest, is when we had the market was really good, we got to a point where we had, you know, a good amount of money in the business, and that we had refined our systems. Our database was, you know, pretty much spot on, and we just thought the time was right, to be quite honest.
Okay.
Plus, also, it was also down to our natural progression as individuals, because realistically, if you're a one-man recruiter, you're just a recruiter, aren't you? But for you to evolve and get to that next level, you need to have people underneath you to manage, lead, and coach. You know, so the time was right, and we felt that, you know, we had a good spell, but we wanted that next level and that new challenge in terms of, you know, bringing people on and training them up, and so forth. Yeah.
So how did you go about this then, Donovan? Because you're in London.
Yeah.
There's a lot of recruitment businesses in London. It's you and Richard smashing it out. Like how did you go about getting people into this business and up for the challenge? I think that's one of the biggest challenges for a lot of recruitment businesses or smaller growing businesses. So like, how did you get people without experience at the start? Did you just hired one person, or did you hire quite a few initially? Talk to us a bit about how you aimed at growing it.
So basically, we hired grads, we hired inexperienced recruiters, people that had some sales experience, and we just trained them all up. So we put together a training program, and yeah, we just had some good hands-on. We were like their mentors. Like, you go to the gym and you have a personal trainer, but it's just like that. So we hired our first consultant in July 2017. We hired one, and then we hired our second employee in October 2017. And, you know, things are all going good. Then 2018, February, we hired two more at a time. And, you know, we thought, okay, well, let's just limit the work. It's the same training. You know, we had the cash, we had the funds to be able to facilitate it. And then we just kept on hiring, probably like, you know, 2 every 5 to 6 months.
Okay. So when you say training, I know you just mentioned there where it's like hands on stuff like that. Just give us a bit of a flavor of that, because I think that's where I think it comes back to systems, doesn't it? And I'm assuming that you're thinking, well, if we have a training program now where we are, then that hopefully will come in handy when we get to 20, 30, 40 people, right? So I guess what, like some recruitment owners that are sort of where you're at, they may think, well, I'll give them a phone and then I'll sort of just answer their questions and stuff like that. Like what did that training program actually consist of, out of interest?
Well, to be quite honest, there was no glossy, you know, handouts. It was just getting on the phones and doing the work.
Right.
But we would be listening to, you know, all of the calls. They would literally be sat next to us, and after every call, we would be like, okay, the candidate said this, it means this, therefore you got two options. You can either do that or this alternative. And this is what you get in both situations. So it was like a case study on every call,
Right.
and we found that people would learn a lot better, a lot more, should we say, than some of the bigger companies are just like, all right, here's some numbers, here's the phone, just crack on. So it was really just proper coaching, should we say.
Yeah. Okay. And look, it's something that people are always interested in, Donovan. And I think back to the first question, there's so many different things there's so many different types of successful recruiters, different backgrounds or whatever. But over the sort of last 3-4 years where you've consistently hired now, what are your non-negotiables when hiring for your business? What do you look for? And yes, work ethic and these things, but what do you actually look for? What are the non-negotiables for you?
So, you know what, we haven't always got it right, but we've got it right more often than not. Is just pure drive and hunger. I don't really, I'm not bothered about if, someone comes from money, good upbringing, because I'm not going to generalize, but if you've had hardship, if you haven't really had much in life, there's a chance that you're going to be more hungry to go and get it, to make it happen. So that's what we personally look for. We look for hungry, just diamonds in the dirt. Seriously, that's what we look for, diamonds in the dirt. And we polish them up, we'll give them a chance. A lot of the people, they probably wouldn't, they wouldn't have been seen by the bigger, more corporate recruitment companies. We'll just, if you can sell, if you've got that drive, then we're interested.
So what are we looking for here then, Donovan? A backstory. I had it hard when I was younger. I'm here to do you know what I mean? Are you digging for that with people?
No, to be quite honest, it's like everyone's got to be themselves,
Yeah.
But we've hired some people that, dress well and, they're quite polished. And then when they come and, they say they want to be successful, they say they do this, but then it's like, okay, I'll call this client later. Well, no, call him now. Oh, I just tried him once or twice. No, you've got to be on it. You've got to be on it, because every time you're not on it and calling and making it happen, when you're racing with your competitors on that job, believe me, they're going to harass that client, that candidate. It comes down to drive. So where people don't have it in them to, just be persistent, that's what we look for. People that are they need to earn money. If we think that you don't need to earn money, if you've got it too easy, then look, it's better that they go to some of the bigger companies. Because you've got to understand, look, when we started, we didn't have any external backing. We just did it all organic. So we've gone for a slower approach where we're training up people ourselves. And we're a business, we need to see a return. So we need to hire people that want to change their lives, that want to make an impact, in the SAP recruitment world.
And would you say that training and your time has been more so than not worth the investment?
100%, yeah. 100%, because it's it's definitely worth the investment, because you're employing people when they're cheaper, and then you're training them up. It's like being Arsenal, that develops youth academy, and then they grow into players. Obviously, it's definitely worth an investment. But I went to the recruitment fair, I think it was last February, not this February gone, the one before that. And one of the speakers, I can't remember who, they said that, look, you can't build a recruitment company on inexperienced recruiters.
Really?
But yeah. on grads in experience. I mean, once that you're a certain size, you can bring an academy in and just bring an L&D person and then just train them up and, just 10 in, 8 out at the end of the month, 2 sticks. But look, we've done a good job of it so far, but obviously there's going to come to a point where we're probably looking at more experienced recruiters. But yeah, it's worked for us so far.
Okay. So what were some of the sort of key ingredients to Nicholas Bernard going from you and your business partner doing 500K or so revenue between you to then hiring people to now last year did 8 million in turnover? Like, what were some of the sort of key things that you think has enabled you to get to that point? Because that's an amazing achievement. But if you think of that, obviously you're a small business, right? So to be generating that.
Yeah.
That's great. So like, what were some of the sort of, so you're mentioning around the people, training them up, the right types of people that you're getting into the business, but what else do you think that you and Richard have sort of had to change or have implemented that has enabled you to achieve turnover like that?
To be quite honest, it's having market information and going for quality clients.
Right.
When things started to go really good for us is because we had a strategy, and this strategy was complemented with having a couple of key clients that enabled us to deliver and have a good financial, platform for us to grow. So focusing on certain key clients in regions and just being able to deliver on them. But that comes with having the market knowledge, being a subject matter expert in your fields,
So look, let's talk about that, because I think a lot of, like, hopefully you agree, but a lot of recruiters get fixated, and this has come out from some of the conversations recently where I had a chap called Oliver on from Faden International that are a global organization scaled to 800 staff, and they've done really well in America. And one of the things that he thinks is the key reason why is that they really impacted the culture of, instead of sort of getting a new client, doing really well, then rinse and repeat with the next new client. Actually, what they ended up doing is, focusing on key clients, expanding those accounts. They ended up building a whole team, client services team, that then turned, 6-figure accounts into 7-figure accounts, right? So from your perspective, what was you looking for that you think or gave you more confidence that these could be a key client or a good client? Like, what were you looking for? What was you trying to gather and understand?
Well, to be quite honest, we started to have a different approach. So a lot of our competitors were supplying SAP resources across Europe, and we started to branch out further afield. So, since 2014, we started doing lots in the US. We had some key accounts that focused our delivery in the US and Asia. So we weren't just another recruitment company doing, prospecting for the European markets, but we were able to follow implementation projects globally. And, there were certain regions where we didn't really have much competition, and that allowed us to really, just form a partnership. And the billings rose with those partnerships. So, in 2016, we set up a C Corp in the US. The plan is to, because we did probably about 50% of our revenue out in the US, and the plan is to grow that part and just have troops on the ground in the US in probably a couple of years.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So actually your competitive advantages and so it's actually been, a global focus. Actually, okay. So
and we've still had a focus in Europe, but it's been like, we can follow your implementations across Europe.
So
Asia,
instead of,
and US,
so like you might have got a client in Europe where you supplied X amount of people for an implementation,
Japan,
and then you've gone
Korea, Australia.
exactly. Whereas before what you're saying is, well, actually, we made sure, or we aimed to start working with clients that didn't just have an EU operation or whatever. They had, a global footprint, which meant we deliver well here. Then it's like, right, who's dealing with your Asia implementation or whatever? We can supply that, blah, 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 right?
Exactly.
So let's talk about this then, Donovan. You're someone that's bilingual, right? There are, you may have noticed this, but there's definitely more UK agencies going to America. There's more UK agencies just focusing in the EU markets. So talk about the nuances that you've had to adapt to. Like, what have you had to change in your approach, or what have you had to learn about the American culture that you've had to adapt to? A lot of people are interested on if I've typically been a UK recruiter, but I've heard the fees in America are much larger, or actually there's a real like the UK is just completely saturated. I'm just going to do Amsterdam and this skill set or whatever. Like, let's talk about America first, because I think that's quite popular. What have you had to adapt to? What things have you picked up on that you've gone, oh, well, that's a bit interesting, I'll make sure I don't do that next time? Or what have been the main differences that you've picked up on?
Well, the more we started to do, the more we started to trade in the US, the more our clients or prospect clients would ask if we had a local entity out there. And they didn't want to be invoiced by a European company or a foreign company. And there was a lot of, bureaucracy and just a lot of paperwork, a lot of hoops to jump through just to avoid that, so to bypass that. So we ended up setting up a company there. And still it's been challenging because, there's, unless you're actually there, it's a lot more difficult to gain the trust from US clients when you're in Europe, or even US candidates. Some will be like, well, how do I know I'm going to get paid? I don't really want to work with a non-US entity, even though that SAP is a German software, European software. And I just, that's all fun and games. But also the hours is a killer.
Really?
The hours is a killer. Yeah, I was doing 14 hours a day, coming home most nights at 10:30, 11. Yeah, still having my phone just beeping with emails and that. But.
So what about? So you mentioned a bit about dealing with have you got an organization in America, whatever. What about? So one of the conversations I had recently with a chap called Lewis, who has actually moved out to Boston, Massachusetts, and one of the things that he shared, I'd be interested to get your thoughts on this, is that he's had to really change his approach in making sure that he builds relationships with internal recruiters. Okay. And that's actually helped him open up some big accounts. Whereas before he should do the Danish market, and he would be super direct, go straight to the CEO, and wouldn't always go through the internal recruiter. But that's something that actually ended up being more damaging than positive. So what's been your experience in winning accounts? Have you had to go for internal recruiters? Have you had to adapt that, or what's been your experience with that?
No, not really. No, we haven't really had to do that in the US. To be quite honest, I think where the US market is different is that you've got a 180 model, which is basically just, someone that's just doing delivery. And then you have someone that's just focusing on business development. You don't really have much of 360 recruiters. Now, from the client point of view, it was literally just IT directors or ERP managers that I would always be speaking to. So I don't think it was, that different to. I think this is going to depend on the sector that you're in, but I don't think it was that different to. Yeah, it's not going to be that different to the setup in Europe, to be quite honest.
Okay, interesting. Yeah. So, look. So what's helped you get through the last 6 or so months, Donovan? How have they been?
It's brought us back down to reality. It's definitely been humbling. But look, we've run the business in a very good way. So we're still financially healthy. We're still making a profit. We still haven't had to use any of our savings as a business, even though that we're in the worst crisis the human race has ever seen. Look, if you do good things in the good times, then in the bad times you should be good. As long as you've got discipline again, and you're doing good processes, then it makes the hard times easier to survive. Now, look, we were very good. We topped up everyone's furloughs. That we paid everyone the extra 20%. We paid everyone full commission, and a lot of our competitors, and I heard a lot of other agencies were paying half commission, 33%, or whatever it is. We paid everyone 100% commission, and we topped up people's furloughs. So because we had a good, solid foundation. But yeah, it has been hard. We have come down.
What's been your biggest challenge?
The biggest challenge is, well, look, not all of our sales force, not all of our recruiters were experienced. So having people which are still training and got less than a year's experience working from home remotely when they still need guidance, that's challenging. So when lockdown happens,
Can't hear Donovan on the phone smashing it out.
Yeah, well, this is it. And when lockdown happens and you've got runners that are finishing left, right, and center, and you don't have the workforce which is working to add to the runner base, that obviously becomes a big challenge. So
yeah, because I've heard that a lot, Donovan. Did you have conversations where, or did you literally go from X amount of contractors out to dramatically dropping by, I don't know, 50, 75%, which you then had to build up? Or I've heard, like how,
definitely.
What was the thought process then? Was you like, oh my God, are we literally going to go from X runners to zero?
Well,
because
it's like when you're in the ring, it's like, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I've heard a number of stories. So I spoke to a guy the other day who was in, he's always done contract. He was in construction, and literally he went from a 6-7K grand book. It was just him, to a couple of £100 overnight.
Yeah. Well, do you know what? It's just like when you're in the ring. So, if you're in the ring and someone comes at you and they want to take your head off, you're not going to panic. You've got to have composure. You've got to believe in your skills, believe in your processes, believe in your strategy. And you just got to work the game. So, look, this is a cycle. So we're in the down cycle now. We've built the business in a certain way that we have to, keep at it and carry on giving our best and training our employees and make sure that everyone understands that this is the hardest it's going to be for the next 12 years or so, because recessions happen every 12 years. The credit crunch last time and the .NET bubble, which burst, in 2001 or whenever it was in the year 2000. So every 12 years or so, there's a cycle. Now, this is the hardest it's going to be. So people have to believe in our leadership. They have to believe in the system. They have to understand what's going on in the world, and everything, the good days will be back. You just have to carry on, work harder, because the market shrunk. If you put the same activity in the good times as you do in the bad times, obviously it's not going to be enough. So as long as people give their all and believe in our vision, then we're going to back all of our employees, and I believe we're going to come back out on the other side and just carry on with our growth plan.
So what I'd be interested in, so look, you've been in that environment where you've been in a ring and it's do or die, as you said, but like, how do you communicate that as a leader? Because you might know, yeah, look, this is really bad, what you're talking about. It might be more comfortable to you to be like, right, let's do this. Like I'm ready to get at it and take action. But how did you then communicate that as a leader to your staff? Because I'm sure there might be business owners or even managers going, you know what, I've sort of weathered storms before, we can do this. But it's communicating that to the people that may not think that straight away, or may have that place to go to. Do you know what I mean?
Well, to be quite honest, we don't just wait for the bad times to try and communicate a message.
Yeah,
We've
nice.
communicated messages in the good times. So to all of my, to all of my employees, I used to tell them about, okay, well, look, guys, you don't know how good the market is, in the recession, in the credit crunch. There was times where we weren't probably picking up a job for a couple of weeks. If you got a job a month, it might, sometimes I experienced that in that times, and they couldn't believe it because they were used to picking up quite a few a week. And then when the pandemic happened, it was like, well, look, guys, remember what I was saying, about what it was like. Now you've earned your stripe. Now this is where you're going to earn a badge, because you're being a recruiter in the recession. This is when you're going to learn how to recruit when the market contracts. And when we get through this, you're going to be a better recruiter. So we're constantly coaching and giving them the message, not just now that Corona's here and ruining all of our lives, but we was just building them up and building the beliefs and making them understand how good the market was, well before this pandemic.
So look, one or two things before I ask you some quick fire questions, Donovan.
Yeah.
Be really interesting to get your thoughts on this. So in your opinion, could refer to yourself or sort of people you've been around in your career or your employees, but what would you say, or what do you think is the most important action or KPI that contributes to a recruiter's success?
This is an interesting one. Look, I've worked with £1 million billers that just bash the phone out every day for 4 hours a day. I've worked with £1 million billers that were just street savvy, just, pure hunger. And I've worked with very successful, probably more average Joes and process orientated person. But the number one trait that they all had was outworking the competition. No matter how much charisma you have, no matter how much flair, how much knowledge that you have, hard work beats talent all day long.
So the KPI is not a specific one, it's the volume that they do it.
Yeah, I mean, look, you've got to work smart, obviously, because, the world's changing, times are changing. I mean, now there's a lot more, there's a lot of AI and email focus, email campaign and marketing. But look, however the times, you have to work hard. I think your number one attribute, you have to be a hard worker.
Yeah.
If you don't work hard, if the phone's not going to call itself, a client's not going to, just give it to you. So you've just got to go and make it happen, But like I said, with the different types of very successful recruiters that I've worked with, they all bloody worked hard,
And final thing before I ask you these questions is because I think you're very well positioned. If I'm a recruitment consultant or business owner, sort of this period has probably really showed me that I do need to not have all my client base in UK, and actually internationalizing and having more of a international footprint can actually diversify my business and give me more chance of dealing with difficult times. What would be your 3 best bits of advice for me as a recruitment consultant or business owner to take my recruitment desk or market international, would you say?
So basically, how to position yourself internationally, is that what you're asking?
Yeah, so I think a lot of people during this period may have gone, you know what, I know America's not as bad, I'm going to go over there and try and win some business there or whatever. So I guess what I'd be keen just to get from you, because you have worked in always really international markets, if that's EU, Brazil, whatever, what would be your 3 best bits of advice for me if I'm I've recognized that my sector, there's an opportunity to not just do it in the UK where it's more saturated. I could actually diversify and pick up business in the EU or America, or whatever. What would be your free bit of advice for me to do that?
Well, I mean, if in my field it's multinational companies, so if you're dealing with a client in Europe, there's a big chance that they're going to have an entity in the US, an entity in Asia. So if you're dealing with them in Europe, why not, start trying to deal with them in the US and in Asia? So you're literally, it's a warm call, it's a warm relationship, but you've got to be able to back that delivery and have a candidate pool in the US or in Asia. So you need to build that candidate network to be able to reflect that. With that, you need to understand the networks, because if you're trying to pitch people in the US and you don't understand the US rates or the different business culture in a specific market, then you're going to fall flat on your face. And obviously every region has got different compliance. If you're, there's withholding taxes, there's different ways of doing business. So you've got to really understand, what you can and can't do in different markets, because if a client doesn't pay you, then it's gonna hurt.
Yeah.
If you haven't incorporated, if you haven't figured out that there's withholding taxes, and a country's got 20% withholding tax, then that's your margin gone to the tax man.
Got that. I've got 5 questions for you, Donovan, okay? And we'll finish. So, first one, if you could change the industry, what would you improve?
If I could change the industry, well, I think LinkedIn's changed it.
Yeah.
I think LinkedIn has really changed the industry. I mean, it's put everyone on a semi-even position where where you don't have to be a specialist. You can just put an advert out. You don't have to be a specialist in SAP. You can just have big budgets, put loads of adverts out on LinkedIn, and you can reach the same people that we reach to, but not as fast as us, because this is what we do all day, every day.
So what would you want to improve then? So what would you want to improve about the recruitment industry if you could change it?
To be quite honest, I think it's all going down. It's all going down in automation and AI. I think I hope it doesn't, but I think that human touch element, I can see it going down an automation part, which I think could kill the industry in years to come.
Okay.
But that's what I would want to prevent, to be quite honest.
What book have you read that has had the biggest impact on you?
There's quite a few, but Rich Dad, Poor Dad 2, Cash Flow Quadrant. If you want to set up a business, you need to understand what a business really is, because a lot of people work for themselves. They think they own a business, but they don't. They're just self-employed. So Rich Dad, Poor Dad 1 is a good introduction, but Cash Flow Quadrant, that's the real one.
Like it. So if Donovan could write a LinkedIn post that could be seen by every single recruitment consultant across the world, what would you want it to say?
Oh, you really put me on the spot now, haven't you?
What would you want it to say?
What would I want it to say? What would I want it to say? To be quite honest, I don't really know. I'm not going to bullshit you. No, I don't really know.
Put you in the spot. Okay, that's fine.
I'm not a blagger. You can tell I'm not a blagger. I'm real.
All right. What did you spend your first biggest commission paycheck on?
What did I spend my first biggest commission? What, as in when I was first starting
out? Whenever.
To
Go
be
on.
quite honest, I bought my flat straight away. So I
Really
didn't.
fair.
Yeah, I bought a flat in literally within the first. I was pretty much in my first year of recruitment, and it was in 2005, and I just put all my money and just bought a flat. I'm a builder. I'm about just growing and making it happen. And once, then you could be a bit more flash and enjoy it. But
No, so like that.
that's
Yeah,
what
so
I
put it
did.
towards the
I
flat,
think,
yeah?
it's only in the last probably 5 years that I've started going on lots of holidays and just being a bit more, just splashing out.
Enjoying your hard work. Okay.
This is it. And there was times where, I wasn't doing any of that because I was just accumulating and grinding. And then you just got to cash in.
Last question.
Yeah.
What is the ultimate goal for your recruitment career or your recruitment entrepreneurial journey? What's your ultimate goal?
Oh, my goal. I would like to have a big conglomerate of recruitment companies in different continents, different brands doing different technologies, and just be seen as a leader, as a pioneer.
Donovan, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Hisham. It's been a
Thank
pleasure
you.
as well.